So just a brief introduction about our expert, Mr. Jigar Halani, and Director, Solution Architect and Engineering from NVIDIA. We'll have this talk on new era of computing, GPUs, data center to edge. To just briefly tell about our expert, he is Director of Enterprise Solutions Architecture Engineering team at NVIDIA South Asia. He is a versatile professional with 15 plus years of experience in high performance computing, big data, AI infrastructure, background encompassing operations, business system design, implementation, analysis, and process improvement in dynamic and challenging environments. He is recognized for outstanding contributions at Wipro previously, where he was heading Wipro's HPC and big data practice for whole India region. He got awarded as the best technical manager by Mr. Azim Premji in 2017. His interests are in parallel computing, parallel file system, large infrastructure in HPC, big data, AI cluster solutions. He is on the steering committee of HIPC conference, where he volunteered for 10 plus years in building the biggest community of HPC professionals. We are privileged to have you, sir. And C-DAC, as in on my personal capacity, I would like to thank, because we are also in terms of collaborating with NVIDIA on many grounds. So looking forward for your session, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Saket. And thank you everyone for making your time out on this Sunday morning. I know it's a second series, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And I extremely apologize. I've spent 5 minutes extra. I could have tested this at least beforehand on this, but as I said, we are at the mercy of technology, and many times it tells us categorically that you need to keep testing me, right?
Yeah.
That's a good aspect of keep remembering that we are at technology and technology is at us. We both need to collaborate together. So nevertheless, but let me get started. Good morning and warm welcome all of you. I trust and hope all of you are safe and healthy. I mean, it's sad to say, but wave 2 seems to be back with the trajectory on the linearity at which scale which it is growing on the number of COVID cases. So I'm praying and hoping that all of you are safe and healthy. All good at my end as well. Let me just put that across, because that's a big deal today, that we are all safe. Today's session, I'll be keeping it very brief and crisp, as we have just 45 minutes, and now we are already at 10th minute of our session now, where I'll be covering up very quickly on the overview of how the GPU computing, or what we call it as accelerated computing, is changing the world. And not just AI, but the whole world. Let me proudly say this statement, because we are embarking a journey which is what we have not seen it before. I mean, we have seen the revolutions, right? Way back 90s, we have seen PC era, internet era. All these things have transformed our life completely. We have seen humongous amount of digitalization taking place because of that, right? The second wave was the data wave, which is where we have seen in last 1 decade, because of data, how many new things we are able to do it, what statistics has to say us, and based on that, today most of the places decision making are taking place, right? And the next era which is coming up is the AI and the robotics era, right? Where we are embarking the journey of combination of 2 major journeys which we have seen it: the revolution of internet, the revolution of data, fusion of that, and making that to work for us in the right direction, which is what is going to change the world in the way in which we operate, look, feel, believe into it, right? And these GPUs that we have it, the tiny computing, power pack performance processors, are not just making the journey to happen at the back end, which is the data center, where most of the compute takes place, but also in the edge computing. And in my presentation, I'll start with that problem statement as well itself, right? How people are trying to use these things in a quick way, just to give you a glimpse why this new era of computing is important and how people are trying to use it, right? So without spending much of the time, let me just quickly move on to the demand, right? And the demand is something which is growing at a pace which the world has not seen any technology revolving at this pace. The AI is moving at, right? In last just 7 years, since the time AI has just come to a great existence because of the breakthrough that happened in Canada and US, since then till today, the amount of work which has been done by the humankind is not done by put together by any technology by far, right? Within just 7 years of time, right? So starting from research collaboration, which is where largely the paper publishing takes place, which basically evolves the concept, puts the new algorithms, new methods to the world, but to also the industry, which is adopting it and accepting it at a pace at which the evolution is taking place. And I have a few examples in my upcoming slides. But also the models, which is what trains the data in these computers to learn what exactly needs to be done and how to make the decision making, right? Or how to identify or define what should be the next step, right? Those explosions are also taking place. And if I were to put some numbers, today the largest model, which is BERT, and I think large BERT is also coming up, is already been 7.2 billion parameters on which it has been trained out. Which means if I'm a human and somebody's doing detection of me, starting from my nose to my eyes to my ears to my hairs to the smallest thing that I have it in my body, like that, the models which are getting trained are on 7.2 billion parameters. That's mammoth amount of detailing that we are trying to do and train computers to start to make understanding on how we make decisions, which are simple, but for computers they are the most difficult to make it, right? That's the growth that we are trying to see in, right? Let me take few examples so that you all believe into it, that yes, we use this, it's there, we have been knowing it, but then the technology at the back, which is making these decisions so fast, is basically AI, and that's happening right here where we are sitting on this WebEx or a Google Meet channel. In fact, there is a noise cancellation feature when I was looking at the settings that itself uses AI at the back, right? Or the virtual background that we are trying to create it when we share our videos also uses AI at the back, right? And from that example to some of these examples, right? Today, any bank is processing the insurance within the stipulated time, which is an hour or max, right? In fact, many banks have started to claim that they can process the claim if all documentations are in place within few minutes, right? All that is happening because OCR is in place, and OCR is using deep learning and machine learning techniques at the back, right? Similarly, a lot of APIs which are being exposed by Government of India today in terms of driving license, PAN cards, passports, Aadhaar cards, and many other things. Anybody who wish to do authentication using this, it's not just the API fetching which is taking place, but you have to also understand that many of them have now just started to click the photo of your Aadhaar or driving or PAN cards, and from there they just fetch the data without you making any other entries, which is basically the computer vision techniques which are taking place at the back, right? Similarly, industry, which is there in the country and across the world, have started to use AI in multiple ways, right? It's not just the same traditional cameras which used to help us in doing the security and postmortem. It's the same camera which is now getting used in Samsung Noida plant to do the validation process of the fridge assembly, which takes place inside the factory, right? Reducing the chances of having troubles, which once gets packed out and gets shipped out to different part of the country or gets exported, it has 100% chances of getting damaged if it is not being put across properly, because these are ultimately plastic materials. And when it undergoes the transportation, it undergoes a lot of ups and downs. So now is where the same camera which used to do just the security and postmortem reports is doing live QA testing analysis in the factories that people have it. And India has more than 600. This was the example on computer vision for QA testing and analysis. And what I was trying to tell you was statistics. We know more than 600 factories in the country today, which has cameras, which has sensors, using AI techniques. They are trying to solve the problems, right? So less of errors, more of accuracy, higher production, and thereby higher outcomes, right? Many examples. I can keep going on with a lot of examples. When you go to YouTube with India AI use cases, if you search it out, you will get to learn about it, right? Another good example of smart cities and safe cities. Cameras are there now in most of the major cities in the country. This was Government of India initiative about 6-7 years back. and we see already more than 80 cities which has camera installed at a scale. I'm not talking about smaller towns, which also has cameras in hotspot areas, which the police department think of putting it across, where the crime could be higher, or in the central locations where the highest amount of people are, doing in and out. But also to those cities which has large scale cameras implemented in their city and connectivity across, tracking out a single vehicle throughout the city, all these use cases, amount of traffic which is going across, in which direction it is going, accordingly changing the traffic signal lights, to the crime, to the any other thing that they want to do it, everything is possible now live. Nothing is a postmortem, right? Postmortem is all about evidence, which they use it to prove the point that what they said was right, right? So all these things, as we speak, are happening in India, right? I'm not just talking about world at all, right? It's all happening in India. If I were to take an example, I have a small video as well on the edge, how the world is moving. I hope at least the video is visible if audio is not coming through, and that will give you a glimpse of how people are trying to use sensors, cameras, voice to ensure that AI is being used at the scale to achieve the higher growth plans. So supply chain, QA testing, farming, telcos, manufacturing, every single place, AI, robotics, conversational AI, all these things are playing a role. Delivery robots. Autonomous drones. Flying cameras. Sports is picking up. Right? So let me now move to the next phase of the presentation, which is where how we are supercharging this AI, right? And we have many ways how we are trying to help the industry, right? Starting from our hardware, which is what we are known for last 27 years, this company has done only one thing, is accelerate the workloads that comes across with the most difficult task in this world, right? We started with graphics as a company because we thought graphics was the workload which was tough for CPUs to uplift. And that's where the invention of GPUs came in, which is graphic processing units, right? Which helped the world to see the graphics in a different way, right? And we enjoy the market share that we have today, which is more than 95%, right? The same GPUs then helped us understand C, C++, Fortran as well, and thereby it made the journey in the high performance computing, or what we call it as supercomputing world as well. And now the same GPUs are also being made understand Python and the new workloads, what we call it as frameworks in this deep learning and machine learning work, era, right? Which is PyTorch, TensorFlow, and many more which are there, right? That is what GPUs are able to understand. So that's on the hardware side. And we have both type of hardware, which is the data center hardware. And for that, we have processors for separately for that. And then we have edge computing hardware as well. And I'll talk about that in a minute from now. But that's not about it. What we quickly realized is we need to touch every single industry as well. And every single industry has a very different and a unique problem statement. So we have come up with about 110 SDKs and libraries, which is touching close to about 17 different verticals, and 95% of those SDKs and libraries are being made open source, right? So any one of you can go download, use it, change it, commit back to the community in the GitHub, and you are good to go, right? Not just that, we also realize that teaching and learning the AI in the right fashion is equally important. We have something known as Deep Learning Institute. I would humbly request to all of you to go through it. It's free for academia people. All you need is a good trainer who is certified from us. We have about 150 trainers in the country who are certified, who takes the training free of cost for academia people. For industry, it is chargeable. There are few modules which are free for anybody and everybody. So you could go through that as well. And it's a very nominal fee that we charge you about 1,200 rupees or so, right? We have a lot of collaborations with universities, and I'll talk about that in my presentation as well. And then we give you all these libraries and SDKs and stacks that we have it to make the journey simpler in the segment that you are interested in making the AI impactful for this world, right? And I'll talk about those segments as well. Let me quickly touch upon the solutions that we have it, which you may want to experiment with it and start to do your learnings on those hardwares as well. Is the latest most processor that we have it, or accelerated computing hardware that we have it, is the A100 hardware, which is the world's largest transistor accommodated into this die, which is 54 billion transistors put across in this die size. Making sure that it gives you a capacity of 40 GB or 80 GB of memory physically on this particular chip. You could use the host memory to load your data and transfer it to this particular device. We also now have facility to load the data straight away on this chip as well. We call it as Magnum IO feature, which is again open source SDK that we have announced it, right? And this particular chip that we have it gives you about 1,000 teraflops on your inferencing, and close to about 300 plus teraflops on your training, right? So any deep learning model, you typically have two sides. How you want to use the your chip. You always train the model and then you finally deploy the model. They call it as training and inferencing, right? The same chip is capable to do both, right? When you do inferencing, typically you lower down your floating points, and you do the inferencing, because largely the decision making, which is yes, no, is what needs to be done, right? You don't consider training the model at the edge itself, right? That's typically thought process that you have it. Now to use them with the frameworks of your choice that you have it in a most optimized way, without thinking much on which library to install, which SDKs to install, which dependent RPMs are required to get installed and get started with. We have come up with a simplified solution. We call it as NGC, NVIDIA GPU containers, right? And there are hundreds of them, which we have made it absolutely public. Works on containers, works on standalone Kubernetes stack as well, right? And you can use them at anywhere, on your laptop, on your desktop, on your workstation, on your data center. You can use them on cloud as well. We're certified with all cloud providers that you can think of it, right? Close to about 16 of them in the worldwide scenario. And in terms of desktop workstations and servers, we have certified it with more than hundreds of them which exist in the market, with different varieties of systems that each of these OEMs has to offer it in the market, right? And these catalogs are updated exactly on the same day or within the same week of which the the frameworks are being announced with the new updates, right? We are that fast. We collaborate with Facebook, Google, Microsoft, all these guys who are the inventors of these frameworks, and work with them hand in hand. On the day of their announcement, within that same week, we also announced these frameworks to come on our containers, made available to you absolutely free, being on open source community, right? And the website link is ngc.nvidia.com. Any one of you can go. Don't waste your time in putting conda-based environments where you install things one after the other, and you end up getting into a situation of dependencies and all those things. Instead, use these containers, which comes with pre-configured all these things. All you have to do is select the version that you want to have it based on your application implementation that you want to do it. Just download it and start to use it. Pretty much about it, right? It comes with everything that you're looking for. Once you get started, based on the kind of workload that you have and the kind of domain that you want to work upon, right? All you want to have it is very specialized libraries or SDKs or software ecosystem, which helps you determine where to head towards much faster. And in this deep learning, machine learning era, what is more popular these days is something known as transfer learning toolkit, right? Which means somebody has already trained the model with some other data sets that they had it on a similar kind of requirement, and then you use that model. With that, the advantage that you have it is you end up using less compute, you end up doing less amount of time to train the model, and the model becomes much more stronger because it has your data set as well as somebody else's data set on which it was being trained without sharing the data set that they had it, right? And to do that, we not just have our hardware stack, the containers, but we have also developed a lot of SDKs and libraries, which is what is helpful to you to embark your journey much faster in the respective vertical that you are interested in. Just to take a simple example, if you are interested in doing video analytics for the use case of, let's say, traffic, or you are interested in to do video analytics for a farmer in the farmland, or you want to do a video analytics for a mall, or a secure zone or a factory, we have a stack, we call it as Metropolis, which covers basically deep stream, which is the pipeline being used for camera feeds and processing it in memory in the GPU, and giving you the desired outcome, and deployment that you do it using something known as TensorRT, which is the another open source product portfolio that we have it in our stack. Similarly, if you have a recommendation engine needs to be developed, which is what all e-commerce websites does it these days, right? Recommendation for you when you buy a phone, automatic recommendation comes to you is a screen guard and the cover that you want to buy it. And based on your choices that they have seen it in past, they will start to recommend you the exact product that you might be looking for, right? We have a SDK that we call it as Merlin, right? Similarly, if you are from a healthcare background, we have a product line called Clara, and within Clara we have different segments. We call it as Clara Deploy, Clara Train, and few others, right? Similarly, and I'm sure this must be the most popular thing that you guys might be thinking of doing it, is languages, because India is so rich with its languages, right? 300 plus languages that we have it, 23 of them are official languages. Nobody on the planet, any other country has this kind of diversity in the languages. We have a product called Nemo for training the model, and Jarvis and TensorRT to do deployments of your models for conversational AI, right? That's the kind of stack that we give it to you guys, completely on open source based, truly in collaboration mode, right? That you can download it, start to use it, start your journey from the place where you think that you have data plus the vision to complete the project within the stipulated time. A lot of pre-learnings have been already shared, on our website, and I would encourage you to go through it in your respective domains that you are, right? On a quick note, 80 libraries were being updated just last quarter, and we do average 50 plus library upgrade every quarter, right? So that's the pace at which we operate and upgrade our stacks, just to make sure that you guys are getting the latest and the greatest which is happening in the market from an AI perspective, right? And all these things get integrated into a nicely packaged container, which is what we publicize it to you, right? And the developer base is growing, startup ecosystem is growing on a day-to-day basis that NVIDIA has seen as a journey, right? This is what the SDKs and libraries I was talking about in the different segments. So I've picked only 6 or 7 of them, which are the most popular segments that we have seen downloading our SDKs and libraries, starting from conversational AI to e-commerce people which uses recommendation engine or search engine or catalogs. All these things are part of portfolios. One of them is Merlin. When it comes to video analytics, or what we call it as smart cities and safe cities, we have SDKs and libraries which are known as Metropolis, right? Robotics, we have Isaac. For autonomous platform, we have Drive. And for telco, which is now the next generation 5G, which is going to take place, for the hardware, vRAN and software-based defined data centers, we have Aerial SDK, which is what has been publicized in our website, right? So that was largely on the data centers and on the training the models, which is what we were talking about. The moment it comes inferencing of the model, which is what we call as deployment of the model in the real life scenario, right? You need devices at the edge many a times. In fact, most of the times, right? Very few amount of inferencing takes place from the data center itself. For example, e-commerce, most of the things that you use it on your phone, the decision making takes place in the data center, not on your phone or on your laptop or desktop from where you're operating the website that they have it or the app that they have it, right? But robotics, telcos, or autonomous platforms or conversational AI, many of these things takes place at the edge, right? And for that, we have a product line, we call it as Jetson family. And we have different product lines into this, starting from the lowest model, which still gives you half a teraflops of performance, which is just worth a couple of thousands, $59 all put together as a developer kit. What you end up buying on top of this is an adapter, a memory card, a camera if you are doing the computer vision on top of this. Pretty much about it, right? And in India, we have more than 100 of colleges today who have labs around these things, both on training and as well as on inferencing, which is the edge computing as well. And students do projects around these kind of infrastructure, and because that's what the industry is demanding about it. And I'll talk about that in a minute as well before I end my session on this, right? And few other products which goes into production category hardware as well, which is Jetson Xavier NX and Xavier itself, right? And then again on top of this hardware, we have the hardware software stack as well, which is what helps you build these models and deploy these models much faster and thereby scale them as well if you have multiple of these devices as well, right? If you're doing this inferencing, let's say on data center, and if you're looking for deployment this on hundreds of servers, we have something known as 10T server, which helps you scale this, scale out and scale in within fraction of seconds. On a click button with the administrator can do this based on the workload that is coming in, right? And for deployment, here is how the stack looks like. So we use Transfer Learning Toolkit again, which is extremely popular these days in the market. We have two SDKs which we believe are the most popular today in the market. ISAC for robotics and DeepStream for the computer vision, largely for cameras, and then Nemo Jarvis for the voice, NLP, ASR, TTS kind of applications as well, right? And you beat any of these verticals, logistic, healthcare, agriculture, all of these will have either of these requirements only. Either they will have computer vision, or they will have conversational AI, or at max they will have robotics, right? And that's where AI stands today. How do you kickstart it with, right? So as I said, you have GPU access everywhere. You have it on cloud. You can buy it on-prem as well. You can have it on your laptops. These days we have GPUs coming in laptop as well. Very sleek laptops. It comes in workstation and desktops as well. You could start with DLI, Deep Learning Institute. Make sure that you go through that portfolio. Many of these sessions are absolutely free. If you want to know more about it in detail about your subject, say for example pharma or about agriculture, we have a conference which takes place every 3-4 months. We call it as GTC, GPU Technical Conference. And this time this conference is in April, which is about 20 days from now. And about 1,400 sessions are going to take place into it, and it's absolutely free. Anybody can go log in and watch these videos out and see how people are using AI and doing the deployments in their day-to-day lives in the respective vertical that you are working upon, right? We also have Jetson page where people upload their projects with their source code, which you can download, do the modification as per your requirement, and that's developers.nvidia.com/embedded. You could go to this page and you will see all the projects that people are trying to put it across over there. Take examples from there and try and implement this by yourself as well, right? Coming towards the end of my presentation, I thought I'll just give a glimpse of few things. Just to tell you guys as a perspective, just in India, and I'm not talking about worldwide numbers at all, we have now more than 300 colleges, research institutes, and universities, which has GPU, AI, deep learning, machine learning lab, both for training and inferencing. We have about more than 5,000 students which are getting trained every year on this technology, and they do participate into India and worldwide competitions for AI research papers. In fact, India's curve on AI research paper has sharply gone up in last 2 years, especially during this pandemic time. We were struggling, we were trailing behind China, US, Japan, and Europe. But I could see our numbers are sharply growing up, thanks to the efforts by the academia people, right? We have about close to about 600 startups which uses in India GPUs for deploying and training their models for AI. We have close to about 3,000 industry people, those who are global companies, those who are Indian companies, but they have research or the work happening, they have offices in India, which uses GPU today to make their journey embarked into this AI world, right? That's the scale that we are talking about when it comes to AI just in India. And this is just last year data, which is 2020 data. I am fairly hopeful that this pandemic coming to its mid of its path, or hopefully by end of its path now, and if we start to see market opening up as well, this journey is just unstoppable. AI is going to go everywhere, like how Java.NET used to be at one point of time, or today how full stack looks like in this IT world, how we talk about it, right? Python, machine learning, deep learning is going to be a de facto standard, right? Everybody needs to have a touch point with this technology without fail in the work that they're trying to do, irrespective they are automation engineers, or they are QA engineers, or they are developers, or they are a real true AI data scientist, trying to play around with the data as well, right? So that's all what I had in my presentation today. I know I started late, but I've tried my best to end up slightly early so that we can do a little bit of QA, talking as well. I do have two, links to share as well. I'll just put them into a chat box. The first link is to the conference. If you guys are interested, I have put in a conference link which is going to give you a free passes, and the second link, which is the competition that we have announced it for the edge computing. Anybody in the country can take participation into this and can earn good amount of money. Plus, if you're a student, we will, if you come in the top ranking, our promise to you is we will make you, have, marriage happen with the startup ecosystem, where the startups are looking for these kind of students to get hired, right? And if you are a faculty, we will ensure you will have a tie-up with these startups so that you can have a collaboration with them, and thereby you could build up upon some projects. You can put across your students over there and can start some internships and other things as well, right? So I thought I'll share two links that should be useful to you guys.
Thank you very much, sir. This was really a good thought out lecture, which covered the basics of AI, why we need AI, the role of AI in our life, and then the NVIDIA product in line for ranging from the companies to universities to students. It was well thought, and C-DAC is privileged to have you and NVIDIA as a collaborating partner with us. And we are also, as I said in my introduction, we are already looking up to start a convergence of HPC AI and data science course with NVIDIA, heading with Jigar Halani sir. And thank you, sir. Thank you for your talk. And throughout the talk, we have received many questions. So we would answer that. And if anyone has more questions, they can put in chat. So major questions are from our former DG of C-DAC, Srinivasam Ramakrishnan sir, most energetic participant we are having in our series. Thank you very much, sir. Jigar sir, if you could see.
I'll go over it. Yes. So firstly, thank you all for listening to this. Let me quickly go to the questions. When we begin to get cameras and AI anticipatory failure in our customer durables, and questioning us to maintain guys in advance, avoiding breaks down. I'll tell you, sir, I can give you a couple of links of startups who are already doing this, right? Intello Labs is one of them, which are Gurgaon-based or Noida-based company. I could talk about few others. They are extremely popular in this country, making these kind of automation taking place in the factories today, right? The other question that you have it is, who makes all these robots? Let me proudly say this: Indians makes a lot of these robots, right? In fact, the robotic head of NVIDIA, I believe, is also an Indian, right? Of course, he's based out of US, but we have a lot of engineering members, and they are in excess of hundreds of them, sits out of India, Bangalore, and Hyderabad and Pune offices, which does this. India has a lot of these robots getting developed, manufactured in the country as we speak, right? A good example from the government body is Bell. They are doing this research R&D along with us. I can't reveal more information, but this is the only information which is public, so I can share it with you. I can also talk about many startups, many enterprises which are developing robots for their factories, for their delivery ecosystem, for their supply chain, hospitality, and many other things where they're trying to do automation, right? One of the questions that Mohan has it is, how is the HPC and AI coming together? Well, that's the new thing which is taking place in the market today, right? The fusion of HPC and AI, right? How do you have the traditional science learn from AI and reduce the cycle of doing the compute to ensure that the faster result comes and accuracy improves it, right? My view is weather and the bioinformatics, especially molecular dynamics, is embarking the journey much faster. I believe even CFD is taking that course of action much faster. To give you a simplistic example, right? A design thought process in a CFD simulation environment. Say a Maruti wants to come out with a new car. What should be the design that is not there in the market yet, so that you can do the patenting, aspect of it? At the same time, it is giving the touch and feel how Maruti, Suzuki cars are looking like, right? All you have to do it is, and this is what now CFD, ISV application vendors like Ansys, Altair, LS Dyna, all these guys are coming up with as well, is they take the learning from all your past designs that you have done it, right? And AI starts to envisage what should be the new model should look like based on the parameters that you have defined it. Say it should be a 5-seater car, it should be this much length, it should have this much width, it should have this much height, the road clearance has to be this much. And if you have hundreds of those parameters being defined pretty well, your model can come up with the answer that what exactly you might be looking for, which is unique, not getting compared with other brands which are already existence. At the same time, giving touch and feel how your Maruti has been looking like. Similarly, in weather, based on the prediction cycles that you have had it for last 20, 25, 30 years, and based on the weather data that you are collecting it now using sensors, satellites, and many other things, what should be the prediction across, right? And then you run the HPC simulations as well, see how the accuracy is coming through, right? And then start to believe and train that model further to improve that accuracy as well. So the fusion is taking place. There are many fold challenges, and we have SDKs coming up in that direction as well, right? Finnet is one of those SDK that we have come up with for the CFD application vendors. It's again open source. You could go and check that on our website as well, SimNet, right? And you can reuse those models to train your models further with the data sets that you have it. Okay, let me take another question, which is NVIDIA setting up foundry and foundry-less manufacturing in India. Well, that's a question by the management. It'll be difficult for me to answer it. I hope that decision would have been in my hand. By now, India would have had the factory, right? But yes, the fact is, India has missed that bus a couple of decades back, right? Probably, China and Taiwan has went ahead, miles ahead. But I'm very confident with this Make in India policy. A lot of things are going to change. NVIDIA already has one factory. Our networking cards, which is basically the Ethernet and InfiniBand cards that we manufacture, the acquisition that we have done in Mellanox, already has a factory in Pune. So that way I could call it NVIDIA now is a Make in India as well. But yes, GPUs are yet to come through. Hopefully first servers will come, followed by the chip manufacturing vendors will come through as well, right? The next question is, we have K40. We are doing research in COVID for Gujarat Biotechnical Research Institute in Gandhinagar. We are running our jobs. It takes more than 30 days. Is there a way to optimize code? Yes, there are many ways how we can optimize the code. Do write me an email. Let me just put that across. and let's talk more about it, right? Okay, can we get our GPUs to run our codes, which will give us opt-out COVID patterns? All right. Have you heard of Collabs from Google? It has GPUs and it's free, right? If you are an institute, largely you will have a Microsoft, package which you would have purchased through them for your Office, for your Windows operating system and all. Part of that package, you get good amount of cloud access instances also free of cost. Microsoft has GPUs available on their cloud instances as well. You could go ahead and use GPUs over there as well. There are many ways how you can use GPUs, right? All the cloud service providers has it. C-DAC has purchased it as well. It is now 62nd largest supercomputer in the world, right? It's a superpower, super horse that C-DAC has it. I'm sure it is meant for NSN users, faculties, researchers. All you have to do it is reach out to them, and they will I'm very confident they'll be able to help you out with the access of GPUs as well, right? I think those were the questions. Yes, I think one question. Yes.
Is it free from Microsoft side, or do we have to like purchase?
So if you will have the Microsoft licensing, stuff available with your company or with your institute, largely they have packages for cloud instances as well, and initial package is free for academia. Like how Teams is free in this pandemic, I think one conferencing tool which has zoomed up outside of Zoom is Teams, because Teams was always free with your Office package that you have purchased, right? Similarly, they also give a lot of cloud instances as well free along with your package. All you have to do it is inquire with them how can you access them and start to use them as well.
Any more questions, participants? We could entertain it. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you all for participating. And on behalf of C-DAC Patna, I thank Jigar sir. It was really insightful talk on AI and the products of NVIDIA. Thank you, sir, for giving us time.
Thank you so much. Talking to all of you. Thank you.
And we would meet the same time next Saturday with the topic of SQL and data analysis in this day 3 of webinar series. It would be taken by Mr. Gaurav Rajput. So, and the meeting link would be same. Thank you all.
All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Happy weekend ahead, guys, and stay safe.